I got a quick video for you here today on the channel, and we're going to talk about two separate things. One is the Kaminski Archery Dampened Barebow Weight. I got a little bit to share with you about that. And another thing, I got a date I want to share with you, and I want you to put it on your calendar and save that date because I got something for you, Europe, and it's coming really soon. So there's two things I want to cover on the channel today, but before I do that, I just want to quickly say, please do hit that subscription button, the notification bell down below. I'm super close to 100,000 subscribers, and I need help pushing over that barrier, so it would really help me out if you hit that subscription button. And I do want to talk about two separate things today. That is the Dampened Barebow Weight, specifically how much you can tighten it. There's been a fair amount of emails that I've gotten from the people who've got the first batch of these asking how much can they tighten them without damaging the internal damper. And I'll show you here in the video a little bit about that. But first, what I want you to do is save the date October 29th. This is going to be something huge for the channel, huge for Kaminski Archery. I can't wait to share it with you as we get closer, but save that date. And it has to do with Europe. So if you're in Europe and you're interested in grabbing some of these products, definitely going to be something you're going to want to pay attention to. And I'm going to do some sort of live on that evening announcing what is happening and sharing with you more information about Europe and what's happening there. So save that date, and as we get closer, I'll start to do some email blasts and some things like that. And I'll make sure that we start to tease that as we get closer and closer. It's just about 2 weeks away, and I'm super excited to make a trip out there, as well as to share with you a huge announcement that's going to make things much cheaper for those in Europe to grab these products. Now, let's get to the actual Dampened Barebow Weight. If you haven't seen the video yet on the announcement as far as the actual review of the product, I did a review of my own product, kind of an in-depth view, so you can actually check that out. I have links in the description below and a card at the top up there to the actual video. Right now, we're basically out of stock, which is incredible. These sold out incredibly fast. I think the only thing that's left in stock right now is the 21-ounce stainless weight. All the others are sold out of the 14 and the 8, and all of them are sold out in black. So huge thanks to those that have grabbed that. And if you haven't yet, please do leave a review on my website. That would really help me out. It's a new product, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that aren't sure how it is, like how it feels, and if it feels as good as I claim it does. So it would really genuinely help me out if you'd leave a review. Just go to the website, jkaminski.com, go to the product page, and then there's a little button there to click on leave a review, and it'll verify if you are a customer and all that stuff with your email that you use to actually shop there. So that would really help me out if you would do that. And if you're interested in a set of these Kaminski Archery Dampened Barebow Weights, definitely head to my website, jkaminski.com. Place an order, even though they're on back order. When we get our shipment in to actually fulfill the back orders, we will fill them in the order in that they are received. So if they keep on piling up, if you get in sooner, you're going to get the weight as soon as they can come in and as soon as we can ship them to you. We're targeting early November at this point. We were going to say early December, but it seems like we'll be able to make arrangements to get them in stock from here in Florida. I have also heard some feedback about making some sort of a flat spot or a through hole on this section that is behind the actual damper, the section back here that is tapered, to get it really nice and snug and tight, because some people have been voicing some concerns with damaging the internal damper inside of the actual weight. And if you know me, and if you've watched this channel for any period of time, you know that I talk about breaking everything because I over-tighten everything. And I assure you, I torture tested these weights myself, specifically the dampers inside of them, to see how much torque they can actually sustain without failing. And I took it to a point of where I wouldn't even tighten these things myself that much, and they wouldn't fail. I didn't take them to failure because I said, this is absurd. I'd never do this myself, so I don't know how many other people out there would actually do that. So I'm going to show you over the bench here how much you can actually tighten these things and what I'd recommend kind of starting at, just to get an idea of how tight you can actually make these things. I'm going to recommend a few different tools you can grab if you want, if you have one of these already, and it might not be a bad thing that you want to have in your archery toolbox anyway. One thing that you can actually use is soft jaw pliers. They are a little bit more on the pricey side, and they are very specialized, right? They are soft jaw, so you can grab onto things really firmly and give them a lot of torque without hurting the piece of material that you're grabbing onto. And you don't necessarily even need these, but they work really great when you grab on the area of the weight itself and get a lot of leverage right where you need to tighten it. And you're not going to damage anything because of the soft jaw of the plier itself. Now, if you don't have one of those, what you can actually do is use a TheraBand or some sort of stretch band and wrap it around the area of the weight that would be not the dampened part that screws directly to the bow. And if you do a couple of wraps, if you can get a little bit more grip on it and get a little bit more leverage to tighten those things down. I've also used in the past leather on the inside of jaws of pliers to grab onto things to not damage the actual finish of materials that I'm crushing onto or potentially trying not to, but I want to get extra leverage to tighten things up to make sure it doesn't come loose. But like I said, we're going to take into consideration adjusting this design to make it so there's either flat spots for a wrench or a hole for a set of Allen wrenches or something like that to get a lot more leverage on the weight to tighten it down. Not on the weight itself, but on the piece that tightens directly to the bow. So you're not torquing and over-torquing the internal damper. I really appreciate feedback from people because there are some things that you definitely get a little bit short-sighted in and you don't really quite see in the development of a piece of product, right? I've not had any issues with them coming loose myself, and because I torture tested them, I knew how much torque they could sustain. But I do understand that some people have concern out there, and I really appreciate that feedback because if I don't hear it, how am I supposed to make adjustments, right? How are we supposed to make adjustments as a company and make things better for you, the archer, the consumer, and the people out there that are shooting the product on their bow? So genuinely, thank you for the feedback, both positive and negative, and just constructive criticism, because like I said, there's things that we become blind here in designing, and I definitely want to make sure that we make things as good as humanly possible, especially if it's going to make you feel better about the product you're using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition the camera over the bench now and show you what I'm talking about is how much you can actually tighten these things and what I would recommend to do so you can actually follow along at home and understand about how much I'm tightening these things once they make contact with the riser. So now that we're over the bench, if you pay attention to when the actual weight touches the bushing and the riser, right? Once it makes that first initial contact, I tighten these weights roughly about of 1/8 of a turn past that. So if you pay attention to the eye in Kaminski here, as I give it a little bit more, I'm going to head that eye roughly to 1/8 of a turn. A quarter turn would be pointing straight down, roughly 1/8 of a turn, and that's more than sufficient in all of the testing that we've done in the various different bows with the various different configurations. That's more than enough to tighten this thing down, and it should come free. So you see it did break free. Once it's here, 1/8 of a turn or so, and then it's good. Now, it does spring a little bit, so it's still tight, still tight, still tight, still tight, and broke. So roughly about of 1/8 of a turn of it turning loose is when it comes off as well. So here, about that 1/8 of a turn or so, maybe even less. Doesn't take a ton. You just give it a nice good snug, and it's nice and tight. All of those are roughly the same thing. You can see the eyes pointing down towards the bottom of the frame. It touches 1/8 of a turn or so, and that thing's not going to come loose. Now, what I've actually done in the testing is if you see this one, the eye is pointing right now towards the left side of the frame. That's 1/2 of a turn. Three-quarters of a turn, and it's still staying together. So I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to actually turn this thing 3/4 of a turn, twisting the internal damper that far, but just taking that 1/8 of a turn roughly just past the actual touching point is more than sufficient to actually get this thing to be tight and to not have this come loose at all in my experience and in my testing. If you are having anything loosen up, reach out to me and let me know. Send me an email. I'd be happy to talk with you about your setup and see what's going on so that way we can kind of give you a little bit better guidance there. And like I said, I really appreciate the feedback of people talking about putting flat spots here or a through hole or something so we can get some extra leverage to tighten it down a little bit better from this connection point directly into the actual bushing. So that way we're not twisting the damper at all, putting any sort of unnecessary load on it at all, and it's going to stay together and last for a good long time. So genuinely, I really, really appreciate that feedback, and I can't thank you enough. And like I said, if you're interested in grabbing one of these weights, head to my website, jkaminski.com. Save that date of October 29th. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribe down below. Appreciate it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider sharing it. Genuinely, that would help this channel out. I don't operate any other social media, and I rely on you to help spread the word about the channel. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please do consider supporting this channel. There's many different links in the description below. I produce all this content for archers around the world to enjoy for free. I can't thank my supporters enough. I wouldn't be able to produce this content, at least not to this level, without you. So thank you.